The good life after struggle. Frida Nembaya has found it. With a basic monthly income grant of $100 Namibian, or about €9, she's managed to open a bakery. Every registered village resident under the age of 60 receives the payment, with no strings attached. For Nembaya and her 7 children, the grants amount to about €70, which is an average monthly income here. She invested her first payment in flour and yeast, and since then, Nembaya's kept on baking. It's good bread for a good price, and it's become quite popular. Nembaya was even able to buy a new oven with the profits.
I've
always wanted to open a business, but I didn't earn enough money working on the farm. Then I decided something had to change. When I came here, I had nothing and things were really bad for us. When the grant system started, I could put my idea into practice, and I worked hard to make that happen.
Otjivero, at the edge of the Omaheke Desert, is like countless other small villages in Namibia. A pilot program launched here in January 2008 has provided 930 village residents with a basic income grant, or BIG, with no restrictions on how they can spend the money. Organisers are looking to see what locals do with the money. Before the project began, most villagers were still living hand-to-mouth. Joseph Ganeb invested his payment in the construction business. He produces bricks and sells them for a profit. Ganeb's earnings help him feed his 9-member family and send his children to school.
I can't begin to describe how BIG has changed our lives. Not just mine, but everybody's here. I started small, but I'd like to expand and hire people.
But despite the program's success, it's also sparked criticism. Alcohol consumption in the village has risen sharply, and the money has attracted impoverished family members from other parts of the country. Police figures show that poverty-related crime and livestock theft have dropped. But several farmers from the area disagree. Many say the big pilot project has taken away people's independence and the notion that they should work for a living. Farmer Haida Baas knows Otjivero well. She says some villagers have made good use of the grant, but feels many have trouble managing the money.
It's also a learning process, learning to plan for the future and save. And I think there's still a long way to go. That's probably the biggest problem. They spend the money as soon as they have it.
Most funding comes from the Protestant Church, unions and NGOs. One of the program's organisers is Pastor Dirk Hamann. He says BIG has shown results and that Otjivero's villagers are living proof that people can pull themselves up by their own bootstraps. Hamann hopes the Namibian government will take over the costs of the project starting in mid-2011.
You can't make something out of nothing, and people need a certain foundation to work with. We are asking for just 5.6% of the current budget. That's what a national basic income grant would cost. And the success of this pilot project warrants expanding it.
The government is reluctant to shoulder the €140 million in annual costs. Authorities say that BIG is a welcome project, but expanding it nationally would be a major logistical challenge. Officials say the project can't be the only solution and that results still need to be reviewed.
BIG is not being conducted on a nationwide basis for obvious reason, because of the resources that are required. Right now, I am not quite convinced that we'll be able to raise the necessary financing and do it on the scale envisaged by BIG.
But the progress in Otjivero is measurable. Before BIG, every second child in the village was malnourished. Today, it's 1 in 10. And families can now afford to pay school fees, about €4 a month. 90% of Otjivero's children now attend school, nearly double the pre-project levels. The school's principal feels those gains could be lost without the basic income grant. She says education is key to fighting poverty long term.
Big itself is not a big amount that you really can say we can survive from the first up to the last end of the month. But that first 2 weeks, at least, they can do something. They can send their children to school.
Many people in Otjivero worry about what might happen if the program were discontinued.
If Big ended and the government didn't step in, I'd worry I couldn't keep my bakery up and running. People wouldn't have money to spend.
We hope that we'll keep on receiving money because it helps us grow. If there's no more money, we'll have to see how we survive.
Not everyone in Otjivero is an entrepreneur, but many have used the grant to start small businesses. Progress came quickly, but these operations might struggle on their own. And without Big, Otjivero could fall back into abject poverty.